So essentially, the newspaper article from the Dallas Times-Herald is saying that this is W.E. Barker arresting Larry Florer, and Trask says, no, that's a mistake. It's actually W.E. Barnett. But we have this FBI document in which the FBI says they interviewed W.E. Barker, not W.E. Barnett, about this incident. On April 1st, 1964, Patrolman W.E. Barker, Dallas Police Department, advised that the newspaper article was in error as to the location of the people tapping on the window in an attempt to attract his attention to a man standing on Elm Street shortly after the assassination of President Kennedy. Patrolman Barker stated that the people were in the warehouse east of the Texas School Book Depository building, and the man was standing south of this building on Elm Street between the warehouse and the Dallas County Office Building. He stated the man was taken to the Dallas County Sheriff's Office for questioning and released in as much as no basis for any allegation against this person was ever established. He further stated that the man was taken to the sheriff's office some 15 minutes after the president was shot and could not possibly have been the person observed by Gene Hollis Hill because of the time lag and the fact that the man was not wearing and did not possess a hat. So the FBI apparently is responding to something Gene Hill said here, but clearly the details given here reflect the details of the photography I've shown. So it would seem that there really is a patrolman, W.E. Barker, and that he really is this person who arrested Larry Florer. Otherwise, how could the FBI have interviewed Barker about this, and Barker had said essentially that it was he, because he's giving the details of it? If it was really Barnett, then how could the FBI be getting the details from Barker? And there really is a W.E. Barker on the Dallas police force, William E. Barker. This is from the November 1963 Dallas police roster, and it shows that William E. Barker is a radio patrolman on the Dallas police force. But the trouble with this is that radio patrolmen and traffic division officers wear different colored hats. The radio patrolmen wear a dark blue hat, and the traffic division wears the white hat. So if W.E. Barker is a radio patrolman, then he should be wearing a dark blue hat, yet the arresting officer is wearing the white hat of a traffic division officer. So it would seem that the arresting officer here could not be W.E. Barker, and yet the FBI interviewed W.E. Barker, who said he was this guy. So there's something wrong here, and to me it looks like the FBI might be just making up stuff. They have this article that gives information that implies that Florer was arrested in the Texas School Book Depository, and maybe the FBI just made up this interview with W.E. Barker and didn't actually talk to anybody, but just rewrote the story, not realizing that it was really Barnett who arrested Florer and not Barker. But I don't know. So it would seem that the arresting officer is not really Barker, but is it really Barnett? When I compare the ears here, the known photograph of Barnett on the left to the arresting officer, to me that looks like a very different ear. And when I compare the pens in his pocket from Barnett to the arresting officer, to me it looks like he's got different pens in his pocket, though it's hard to tell with the quality of the arresting photography. But I think it's probably not Barnett. So either it's some other officer and some kind of trickery is going on here, or perhaps it's possible that Barker, even though he's listed in the November 1963 roster as being in the Radio Patrol Division, perhaps by the time of the assassination he has been transferred to the Traffic Division. But I tend to think something funny is going on here, and that something is being hidden. And then there's Jim Braden. He's right next to Larry Florer on Lummy Lewis's report. Jim Braden is an extremely suspicious character. He's in town meeting with H.L. Hunt. He's a criminal. He's under a changed name here. I'm not prepared to give a good review of his background, but he is one of the most extremely suspicious characters that appears in Dealey Plaza. And here he is right next to Larry Florer on this report. And this is Braden's affidavit from that day. I am here on business, oil business, and was walking down Elm Street trying to get a cab, and there wasn't any. I heard people talking, saying, "My God, the president has been shot." Police cars were passing me, coming down towards the Triple Underpass, and I walked up among many other people, and this building was surrounded by police officers with guns, and we were all watching them. I moved on up to the building across the street from the building that was surrounded, and I asked one of the girls if there was a telephone that I could use, and she said, "Yes, there is one on the 3rd floor of the building where I work." I walked through a passage to the elevator they were all getting on, freight elevator, and I got off on the 3rd floor with all the other people, and there was a lady using the pay telephone, and I asked her if I could use it when she hung up, and she said it was out of order, and I tried to use it, but with no success. I asked her how I can get out of the building, and she said there is an exit right there, and then she said, "Wait a minute, here is the elevator now." I got on the elevator and returned to the ground floor, and the colored man who ran the elevator said, "You are a stranger in this building, and I was not supposed to let you up." And he ran outside to an officer and said to the officer that he had just taken me up and down on the elevator, and the officer said for me to identify myself, and I presented him with a credit card, and he said, "Well, we have to check out everything," and took me to his superior and said for me to wait, and we will check it out. I was then taken to the sheriff's office and interrogated. This story is almost exactly the same as Larry Florer's story. He goes to a building across the street from the Texas School Book Depository. There's a lady there who says he can use a telephone on the 3rd floor. That's exactly what Larry Florer said. And he goes up to the 3rd floor, can't use a telephone. Exactly what Larry Florer said. There's a little difference here. We've got the elevator operator, a black man, pointing him out to a police officer instead of somebody up in a 3rd floor window. But this is an amazing correspondence to Larry Florer's story. And the big difference here is that while we have this wonderful photographic coverage of Larry Florer being arrested, being taken to the sheriff's office, sitting in the sheriff's office, be giving his statement even, with his statement in the typewriter, we have nothing whatsoever about Jim Braden. There isn't a single photograph showing him being arrested or showing him in the sheriff's office, and we don't have any account from anybody other than the Lummy Lewis thing of Jim Braden being arrested. So this makes me think that perhaps the Larry Florer arrest was created in order to obscure the Jim Braden arrest. Jim Braden gives the story of what he did, and maybe that's not what he did. Maybe he was arrested in the Texas School Book Depository. But he gives a story of what he did, And Larry Florer tells the same story, and I think the point might be to obscure Jim Braden, to wipe him out with the Larry Florer story. And that's why we have all this Larry Florer stuff. And this would have been something, if this is what happened, it would have been done on the fly very quickly, within minutes. If Jim Braden was arrested, this would have to have been done like within 5 or 10 minutes. So they would have to, the cover-up crew, would have to have had a relationship with Larry Florence already, and would have him as a willing tool. I have no evidence of that. But Larry Florence at the time, we are told, was in the Air Force. It's not clear to me whether he's a full-time soldier or not. The information seems to be that he is. However, it also is said somewhere that he did his service on weekends, so maybe he's in the reserve. I don't know. That's not clear to me. But I think perhaps he was an asset that was deployed in case he was needed for something, and that perhaps he was used as an asset to hide the details of the Jim Braden arrest. With Larry Florer here being so visible, you tend not to even notice Jim Braden. And of course, Jim Braden is using a fake name. So I think this probably really is all about Jim Braden, but I'm not prepared to do a video on him, so I'll just end it here on the Larry Florer video.